Maybe it only works for famous people. Excuse me.
I love famous people.
Is it angled up too much?
Yeah. I did that kind of on purpose.
Oh, you don't have to.
Because of... Who we got? Who we got? Who we got? What up, Matthew? What up, Spencer? B. What's going on, everybody? Let's get some people in here. Get this party started. How many? Three. Okay, let's go. Let's go. Let's bring in some people. Stick with us for a minute, guys. We're just waiting for a few more people to show up. Hey, what's up? Corto? Is that
That's Courtney.
Oh, it is? Courtney. Hey. Stitches. They've been in here before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Welcome back.
Thanks for coming back, Stitches. Stick with us while we wait for a couple people. 5 people. Maybe like one more. I don't know. I guess we can start now.
Yeah.
Okay. So, what does that say? Hello.
Stitches,
Hi. Thanks for hanging out with us. What was that? Was that 2 times ago that we talked about that other topic?
Yeah, it was
Prioritizing. I think it was like 2 LD lives ago. We talked about prioritizing, and we got a bunch of questions since then. And wow, sorry, you guys probably heard that. That was annoying. Since then, I've gotten a lot of questions, and I've thought about this on my own, just as a side aside from that. So it's a good topic that we're segueing from that other topic into this one. Anyways, the topic is focus, and obviously prioritizing and focus go hand in hand, because you can't do one without the other. And I just kind of want to break down some aspects of focus to maybe help you get better at focus, because honestly, what I can say without a shadow of a doubt, one of the most important questions you can answer in your life is how to stay focused for you. If you can figure out how to get yourself to stay focused, it's honestly, it's probably one of the biggest game changers you can implement in your life, in every aspect of your life, honestly. So keep that in mind when we're talking about focus. I genuinely believe that it is one of the most important questions you can answer in your life. And another thing about focus is that not very many people are prioritizing it, and that's a problem, because you'll never be able to focus on priorities if it's not a priority. Yeah, that makes sense. And so, I mean, first thing I'm going to say is we have got to make focusing more a priority in our life. And it's just, and it's so hard to do. And we've talked about this a lot before, but it's so hard to do in today's world because we got so much going on. And so many of us are constantly saying yes to everything. And we talked about this a lot with the prioritizing topic. We've got all this stuff coming at us, and all these things that need this stuff, and these false emergencies, and crazy things going on, and we're just saying yes to all of it. But I'm going to tell you right now, saying yes to everything, especially things that don't align, is it's a map for losing your life. And I don't mean like death or injury. I mean like you wake up one day and realize your life is meaningless. That's what I mean by lost life. And not having focus is going to get you there. That's a great way to get there, is to just be like, Yeah, I'll do this. Yeah, I'll do that. I want to try this. I want to do that. I want to do this. That looks interesting. What's going on here? And how? Oh, well, who's that? All this crazy stuff's going on. That's a great way to get to a meaningless morning when you wake up one day. Focus is a lot more important, like I've been leading up to, than we think, than most people give it credit for. Focus literally drives everything that happens in your life. What you are focusing on is what's going to happen. There is no argument. I don't care what any of you think. That is a fact. And this idea of positive and negative stuff. If you're focusing on negative stuff, guess what stuff's going to happen? Negative stuff. If you're focusing on positive stuff will be a lot more prevalent in your life. And you talk a lot about it, or you hear it. Sorry, you hear a lot about people using this word, and especially in our industry, in our niche, mindfulness. That's kind of a buzzword right now, and it's a great concept. It really is. It's a fantastic concept, and you know why it's such a great concept? Because if you really break it down, this whole idea, the whole teaching, it's a whole thing in and of itself. This idea of mindfulness, but when broken down, which is what we do, we break things down and unpack them and give it to you in the simple format. This whole idea of mindfulness can be broken down into one word, and that's focus. The whole thing. If you can master focus, your focus, you can master mindfulness. And people have achieved a lot with mindfulness. Okay? So, I've got 3 things to help you get more focused in life. What does this comment say?
What you are focused on always manifests itself in some way.
Amen to that. Do you have anything to say before I go on to these?
I would just say that I'm really good at focusing on little things that don't matter. Like you were saying.
Everybody.
Everyone is it's so easy to focus on the unimportant and the things that do not matter. Like you said, false emergencies. I'm pro at that, And I'm really good at focusing for 5 or 6 seconds really hard and then losing focus. But he'll probably get into, bringing in the focus and really harnessing it and making it prevalent in the areas where it needs to be. And being able to set aside that time to focus, like he said. And then have the rest of the time to get work done or enjoy life with your friends and family and not having to worry about what you have to do because you got it done or you have your time ready for it. So that's one thing that I personally want to develop more of is focusing and staying focused. Not to the point where I'm stressed about trying to focus, but to where it's a constructive focus. And
creating a habit of focusing.
Yeah, that way it doesn't
you
even
don't
have
to work for it.
Doesn't have to be work. It'll probably tax at the beginning like everything, but and one thing I was thinking about is whether or not it's however you look at it, when you focus on the positive, that's just all you'll see, and the negative will just be kind of things you can brush off. And it makes your life a lot easier, and you're in complete control of that 152%.
Yeah.
You get to decide what aspect you look at. So, if you're always focusing on the negative, thinking that only bad things happen to you, I'm sorry, but that's because you're focusing on the negative.
Yeah.
Yes, you probably are going through some hard times, I'm sorry, but you can choose to look at it differently, and that's on you.
It's
sorry
like,
to not sugarcoat it, but...
Yeah, it's like when something tragic happens in your life. This thing happens to you, and it's awful, and it's overwhelming, and it's just kicking your butt. But it happens, and then it's done. And this prolonged experience, after the tragedy, this prolonged experience, all that is your perception of the replay in your mind of it. It's not still happening to you. It's over. It's a moment in time. You're just replaying it in your mind and keep agitating your the receptors and causing this prolonged experience. I'm not saying that that's a bad thing. We should all go through our process, but it's nice to be aware of that okay, it's done, whatever, this happened, and move on. Because whatever it is, staying with it is not going to help anybody. Anyways, sorry, were you done?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay. So, focusing and some ideas for helping you, get a little bit more focus in your life, which I'm working on now because I've said this a couple of times lately. I'm trying to really narrow it down, or like buckle down and be more focused, because, when you have your own schedule, when you do your own schedule, it's tough to stay focused and to not, like what I said, say yes to so many things, even if they're great opportunities. Well, I'll get into that. But anyways, the number one thing, but number one on the list is make fewer decisions. And we talk about decisions a lot, obviously. Decisiveness is key. Huge, big deal.
It's the fundamentals.
It's part of the major fundamentals. But part of getting good at being decisive is being able to make fewer decisions. The more decisions you're making decisions are taxing. 100% taxing on your brain. We only are, like we talk about this, your willpower, you're only allotted a certain amount of willpower per day. And every time you make a decision, you're straining that muscle. The glucose, you're having less power, less mind strength. Basically, what broke it down, the more decisions you make, the more fatigued your brain becomes. And also, the more decisions you're making throughout the day, the less effective your decision making will be. You'll start making worse decisions, and that's only. I would say that's only in the beginning, because there are people who are pros at being decisive, and they can bang out decisions, boom, 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 and they're all really good decisions. But that's because they've created a habit out of being decisive, so it's not as hard on them. But when we're trying to retool and re-gear things, become more focused, and you're not in that habit, making so many decisions a day, like I said, is taxing, but it affects your effectiveness at being decisive. One way to help you become more effective and to make less decisions, there's a lot of things you could do to stop making so many decisions in the day. For example, lay out your, and it can be simple, teeny things. We talk about this all the time. Lay out your outfit for the next day, the day before. Like, if you don't have to wake up and decide what you're going to wear, that can have an incredible impact on your brain power throughout the day. And some people really stress about that, and it can affect your whole day. Just lay it out ahead of time, the day before. You'd be surprised, A, how much easier it is, and B, how much greater your day is. Okay? But another one, and this is a big one, and I just kind of want to spotlight this one and move on to the next step. Stop browsing so much. Today's world is crazy busy and crazy accessible. And we got our news feeds and our Twitter feeds and our Facebook feeds and Instagram feeds, and we're just browsing these things. And every time you're browsing these things, it's a detriment to your overall brain strength and your willpower, because it's easier to become distracted when you're distracted. Or does that make sense?
Yeah.
You can get distracted a lot more and a lot easier if you're already distracted. It's just like a rabbit, the rabbit hole. You just keep going down and down. We've all been there. All of a sudden, an hour goes by on Facebook. You're like, what the hell have I been doing for an hour?
I did that today.
Yeah.
So
it's crazy.
I got a little story. I was so my wife was taking care of our baby, and I went into the other room to grab something, and I was going to go back to relieve her of her watching the baby for a second, take turns, right? I got a phone call in between, and that phone call led to me being on my phone and sitting on my bed, leaving her in the other room, waiting for me. So there's just, I went down that rabbit hole and stayed there for a while, and I just thought that was funny because she comes in and goes, "What are you doing?" It was funny, so she'll probably appreciate that.
That is funny. We've all been there, I bet.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's crazy how powerful it is. And I'll tell you why. Every time you're scrolling through your feed, your mind is working on overload. And the reason for that is, every time you look at a post, your mind has to make, it's a split second, it's quick, right? But it's still a load on your brain. And you have to it has to decide whether or not you're going to read it. And this is even before you read it. This is even before you read something or look at a picture and then analyze it and decide whether you like it or whatever you're going to do from there. Even before all of that, your brain has to work to decide whether or not you're going to pay attention to it. And it sounds so small, but when an hour of it can be so taxing on your brain. And like I said, the more distracted and the more taxed you get, the easier it is for you to continue following that path, because you just kind of get dull or dumb. Let's see. Focusing on too many things makes it hard to focus on one thing, which is the ultimate goal, right? We need to be focusing on one thing at a time, and you can't focus on one thing at a time if all these other things are getting your attention. You're giving them your attention. Yeah. Anyways, and a lot of people talk about how dopamine gets involved. And what I mean by dopamine is when you're looking through your Facebook feed and you see something you like, and you engage with it, your brain can release the dopamine, and you get that reward feeling. That's great, but that dopamine is addictive, and that's what causes you to stay stuck on it, and which leads to the fatigue. So it's kind of like a vicious cycle. So basically, how we solve that is when you're browsing, browse with intention. I'm not saying don't look at your social media, but be intentional. Whether that's saying, okay, I'm going to be on here for 10 minutes. Doesn't matter what's happening. I'm done in 10 minutes. Or I want to go to such and such's page and see what's going on with them. These active feeds that are changing. Facebook now has a new, I don't know if anybody's noticed this. Now when you try and, at least on Android, it's probably the same on iOS. When you try and back out of Facebook, instead of closing the app, it will scroll you all the way back to the top and refresh it before you have to back out twice. It'll refresh it before you can leave and show you something new, and it's like, hey, stay here longer. And it's like, you sly dogs, you sons of bitches.
They did that on purpose.
Yeah, it's clever. My hat's off, but and if you're susceptible to it, who's really the sucker here? Browse with intention. Be deliberate with what you're doing. Okay, so number 2, you got to have a mission each day, and get your mission down to the minute if you can, but at least each day have a mission, because without you do too much, right? If you go into your day just like, hey, let's do whatever, I'm just here to work, right? Okay, well then do this, and 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 this. You got to have a mission. You got to be deliberate and intentional. Work with a plan. Start being comfortable with the word no. It's a tough thing, because we're so used. It's back to this browsing thing. You're so used to saying yes every time you engage with someone's post. All these things are just chipping away at us, right? To help our focus be whittled into nothing. So have a plan. Work that plan daily, and structure your day around that plan. You can't have your eye on the ball if you don't even know what the ball is. So, have a plan. The plan doesn't work if you're always in reaction mode. Reaction mode is the equivalent of losing majorly. If you're just reacting to the things that happen, you're not going to do it. Here's a little tip. about focus. Focus is impossible without progress. And if you think about that, it's pretty deep. Like if you focus, we can't focus if we're not progressing forward. If we're sitting in one place, it's too hard to focus. We sit, especially in today's world, everything's coming at us. If you stop and let it come at you, it's eventually going to break down your walls, and you will be stretched too thin. So progressing, and if you're having a hard time focusing, start making actionable items to move forward, and you'll see your focus abilities skyrocket. Because while you're progressing, you those rewards, the moving forward, all of a sudden you're looking around, and if you start moving forward, all of a sudden it's like, because you can see that and you can feel the motion of moving forward. It'll make it so much easier to focus. So focus and progress, and switch it up, back and forth. Focus, progress. Focus, progress. Number 3, I already kind of mentioned getting used to the word no, but I want you to try this. Not everybody's going to like this, but I think that while you're taking on this new challenge of becoming more focused, start saying no to everything first. Well, just no, and then step back and think about what it is. Think about your goals, your plan, the things that make you engaged, the things that you have passionate about, all the things that you want to focus on, that you're trying to focus on. Look at this opportunity or this request. Say no to it. Step back, whether it's an hour or two, or even overnight or the weekend or whatever. Step back. You have to say no, though, because if you're doing this maybe thing, then you feel pressure. No, you got to say no. Just let no, and then you're totally cut free, and you have this chance to think about it without the pressure. So, I'm going to start trying to do this more and see what happens. I think that it makes sense, and it works. I know it works. So make sure it fits into your mission somehow. If you can't fit it in, don't do it. If it doesn't engage, if it's not a part of your engagement plan, where things, because this is what you need to be doing with your life, is things that engage you. And part of that is service, and part of that is your family, and part of that is your work. Great. If someone wants it, you've got to have your focus points, and if it doesn't help you get to those things, then don't do it. We have to start getting better at having, you have to have a greater degree of value for your time and your criteria. These are the things that dictate what's going on in your life and where you're going. You need to start giving greater value to those things. And we talked that we had a pretty good LD Live about values and how much they dictate what happens in your life. So start holding more value for the criteria you put in place and your time, because those are some of your most valuable things. And the last thing with this is I want you to just start simplifying. Get back to the very simple, the essential things in your life. There's just so much going on. Try and simplify everything so that you can focus on these things, because it'll be too hard to focus, to narrow in your focus, if you're allowing so much going on. I struggle with this big time. I am a learner. I love learning. And with how accessible learning is with MOOC courses and all sorts of online connectability with people who know things, it's hard. I want to learn all these things, but majority of them literally have nothing to do with what I really want to do, with the things that I engage with on a deep personal level. I need to be able to let these things go. And if there's some things that you just really want to do, that's great. But be deliberate with a chunk of time that you allot to them. Where you can say, okay, I'll focus on this without feeling guilty because I set aside an hour for that. That's great. But you'll still have to cut down the amount of things you're focusing on, because you'll realize you only have X amount of hours throughout the day to allot to these extracurriculars. So it's a way to force you into doing that. So those are my points for becoming more focused, and I hope that as I implement these things in my life, well, both of us, I hope that you guys will take them and hopefully be able to find some value and some measurable change in your life with these steps. You got anything?
Not anymore. You hit the nail on the head.
Oh, sorry.
No, you
Oh, good.
covered it.
Got nothing else.
Well, okay, I'll add some. Just as a personal thing that I've done and do often, and yes, Spencer, time is too valuable to just throw it around.
Yeah.
Starting with a maybe when you already know it's a no means you have to work harder to say no later. I do that all the time.
Oh, yeah.
It's like, oh yeah, sure, probably, let me figure it out. And then you're like devising a plan how to say no.
We get that from Dad.
What? Yeah. Why can't you just say no to begin with? They're not going to all of a sudden hate you or...
Well, yeah, and if you say no and then you decide to do it,
that's like
that's more
promising and over-delivering.
Yeah, they'll be even happier.
Like, oh, even cooler. Yeah, no, because if you're like, yeah, maybe, and then you're in your head, you should have been like, no, then you have to, like, devise a scheme, like, okay, what can I say and do to not be able to do that thing without making them mad at me, but then also not lying too much? It's way more taxing than just saying, hey, I don't want to, or I can't, I'm sorry, whatever. Just, if you have to say no first. Be okay with it. And whatever they react, let them get over it.
Yeah, people will start learning that, and honestly, I think that when you start implementing this, and you hurt some feelings in the beginning, but when people realize and they see what's happening in your life and the progress you're making, they're not gonna be mad at you anymore. They're gonna realize and respect. And if they don't, then they shouldn't be in your life anyways, because those are not cool people. You only want people in your life that can understand, your grind and your struggle and your plans and your potential. So that's our talk for tonight. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Thanks for the comments and the people who hung out, stuck with us. We love you guys.
Live life decided.
LD.